All right, guys, it's telling me we are live. I want to welcome everybody to our weekly Conversations with Commodores. It's Thursday night, and y'all know what that means. We have another awesome guest lined up for our weekly discussion. And I suspect most of you guys who are on the call already or coming on, you're going to recognize this gentleman. You may have seen him in his previous life on the small screen or the big screen when he was doing his LA thing in soap operas and acting and things. But before that, he played middle linebacker, I think middle linebacker for his high school, the same high school that his son Ken, QB1, played for in Texas. Welcome, Robert. I appreciate you making some time for us tonight.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Well, are you better known now being Ken's dad or a former actor moved to Texas? Which one are you more known for these days?
I never get recognized for being a former actor, but often I'm called Ken, and so I just take it as a compliment. But no, I'm definitely, for my sons, I'm recognized for them.
Well, being called Ken these days may not be a bad thing in your world. I suspect as a dad, you're pretty proud of his accomplishments on and off the field right now.
It's one of those things. Sometimes you pinch yourself, that he's developed, he's worked, he's got to this level, he has the opportunity, which is, a lot of kids just never get the opportunity, even if they are skilled. But he's out there, and the whole team just made a monumental effort this season. And for him to be out there every game, and for that whole team, to the guys that withstood the whole season, it's beyond proud.
It's hard enough transitioning as a high school senior from an academic, from a cultural, from a social standpoint, going from high school where you're the big fish in a little pond into any college as a student where you're now a little fish in a big pond. But then when you become QB1, if you will, you got a big magnifying glass. So I know as a parent, you and your wife and the rest of the family are proud of his on and off the field accomplishments. And here's the question from the group for the night that we don't know the answer to just yet. We hope he made his grades and he'll be back in the spring because we're going to need him in the spring for spring ball.
Well, he's coming into, his second new system, in a year's time, but, he's ready. And he got a call from Coach Lee, and it was a very inspiring, very motivational call. And it's one of those, lets him know we're building a culture, a team, that something we want you to be a part of, and he's working hard towards it. But going into this season, I'm going to tell you, we didn't know what to expect. And it happened to go on the road to A&M. And we're like, all right, at least it's close. That was the only positive about it.
And that ended up being A&M's closest win. I know they lost Alabama, but it was their closest win of the season. And looking back, that was an outstanding game for the Commodores to play like that in that environment. Now, I have to ask you, how many members of the Seals family were able to actually attend that game?
Well, it was my daughter and I, because we had to divide and conquer, because my youngest son was playing the state champions in Texas they moved their game to Saturday at Globe Life Field. And so Mom went to watch that one, and I got to go watch Ken. And so we had kind of divide and conquer that day. Just bad luck on the timing.
Well, sure.
A lot of, people say, well, A&M had a bad day. No, our defense rose up. Those fumbles were not, they just fumbled.
Yeah.
We were attacking the ball. Offense moving the ball was, Ken had a couple of mistakes in the red zone. But, given what new environment he was in the first time, and that was a loud crowd. I don't know if you were there, but that was an amazing crowd. And that was a Vanderbilt team that was, to its extent, was at 100%. And that's what they could do.
Yeah.
And it was not an accident.
Well, this year, this season, 2020, and particularly for him and all the freshmen who this is the first time on campus and going from high school to college environment, I cannot imagine having to field all of that. However, when you're that age, when you're 18 and 19, those kids just seem to they just roll with the punches because it is what it is. And I know, Texas football in high school may be the biggest and best in the country. Sorry, California and Georgia. But Ken, what size crowds was Ken used to playing when he was playing in high school?
That's Ken calling me. I'm sorry.
You're a little busy right now. We got stuff to do.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know my computer would do that.
No worries. That's fine.
I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm sorry.
Hey, he may be our quarterback right now, but he's still your son, so you have the priorities here.
I'm going to have Mom call him back. There we go. Stop.
What's for dinner tonight?
That's what he's asking. I am so sorry.
No, it's quite all right.
Okay.
Want you to know, we've got several Commodores.
Hey, Ken?
I'm sorry.
Okay, please stop calling.
Okay, you answered the first time and then hung up. Okay, sorry.
All right. Oh, I can't believe that just happened. I hope you get that.
That's it is what it is. It's no big deal. It's endearing. But I will tell you, we got a whole bunch of Commodores here from different decades, different classes who are watching and send their regards. We got guys from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even in the 2000s right now who are on with us. I just wanted you to know that.
Man, that's fantastic. I feel very honored, really honored to be here. And if these guys are, watching what we're doing, and it's amazing. It really is amazing.
Well, it's fun. It's the Seals family. We lived with you guys during the year through social media, and we're going to get to a little bit of that in just a minute. But I want you to what's the biggest crowd that Ken or any of your children who played high school ball have played in front of in Texas?
Oh, Ken, he's used to about 10, 12,000 fans. And, if we have a home game, and sometimes on the road, it can be smaller or larger, but typically at Weatherford High School, that's what it is.
And then this year, he didn't fully get indoctrinated into those SEC stadium and big crowds, but there were still some decent crowds.
Oh, A&M was,
Mhm.
I guess, because we were sitting right next to the student body and the Yale guys.
Mhm.
It was an electric atmosphere. They had the flyover with the jets. It was as close to maybe a real college environment as you can expect.
Now, it's one thing sitting in the stands. It's another thing standing on the sidelines. And it's yet another thing being on the field. And I would hope most of the players, they may feed off that a little bit, but you hope that they're locked in enough into the game and communication with the coaches that kind of thing doesn't really affect them. And I'm only going to ask you a couple of questions about Ken's real experience, but does he ever communicate that with you that, boy, the crowd really was on us today, or I heard our crowd, that kind of thing? Or is he tune all that out pretty good?
The only thing that he said was in that first game at Vanderbilt, he's like, it was so loud because they would have the speakers right there in the end zone where they were. He goes, that's the only time I couldn't hear anything. It's like in my own stadium when they were just blasting the speakers, close to the end zone.
Yeah.
But just like in high school, I've always asked him, is there any distractions or anything going on? And he's like, once we're out on the field, I don't hear anything.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much the same thing. He did say that when he first got to A&M and they were about to take the field, it was loud. And he, and one of the things that was surprising to me was like, Dad, I really like playing on the road more because it feels more like a real football game because they didn't have fans.
Right.
Up to that point. So he's like, I enjoy the environment. Even if they're cheering against us, I enjoy that environment of having the fans.
Some athletes kind of feed off of that noise. but just watching some of the home games, you could almost hear some of the
Yeah.
some of the crowd, I mean, excuse me, the field communication that you would never hear if there's a fan base there. But that's where I want to go with this. There was much to do, of course, in the social media about how family and fans were not permitted into the stadium, just students after a while. But you guys rose to the occasion and made the best of it. And I absolutely loved the light up star in the window. So share a little bit more about that experience for you guys, letting them know that they're cheering.
It really was one of those things that we didn't know what we were walking into. We just wanted Ken to be able to know we're there, and not just look up at a building, but look up and see we're here. We're here for you. Did not want to in any way draw attention to Mom and I, or to take away attention from the other parents, because there were other parents in other hotel rooms doing the same thing. And so it wasn't, I really did not mean to in any way, steal the attention of the others, because there was a lot of support from a lot of families. It was just, son, we're here. We just want you to know that where we are.
No, there certainly was. Anybody who follows the program knows that there were tons of parents and families all through the Marriott at the stadium. But when you're the parents of the quarterback who starts, you're going to get that spotlight a little bit more than the others. We certainly
We're learning. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
They are well deserving. They're well deserving.
Oh, I got a question. OJ Fleming, who played in the mid 90s, is very active with our Facebook group, all around awesome dude. And he's been on our show. He wants to know, are you hoarding toilet paper there behind you? What's that behind you? It's very important to him.
Oh my goodness. No, I do my work at home, and I print shipping labels for my business. And sometimes I just stack them all up there. So when the little printer runs out, it's like,
hey, you never know what this crowd's going to ask, but at least we got OJ's question answered.
I wish I'd have audited my background a little bit.
Oh no, I think it's great. But I do have to ask you, I meant to ask you a minute ago. You're at the A&M game with your daughter. Your wife is at the state title game. Did you use technology to be able to see, each of you see the other's kid?
We tried. A&M has such terrible cell reception. I was trying. Sometimes I'd run out into the concourse and I could get a signal and watch my other son play, and then I'd run back in. About the third quarter, I just gave up, because I thought, oh my gosh, we're not a 35-point underdog. We got a shot at this thing. I'm going to write this one out. She can write that one out and send me the film.
Well, how long of a drive is it for you from home to Nashville?
11 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you do it every weekend if you can, or wherever it is you need to be, but hopefully this time next year or next season, it's full stadiums, you're flying, and we don't have these issues.
But I fully expect it to be that
way. Let me ask you, from a parent's communication standpoint, at what point did you guys learn that the families weren't going to be allowed to attend, be in the stadium, either at home, or you had to figure out, whichever away games you might be going to, what those stadium policies were going to be?
It was week to week. We canceled so many airline tickets. There was times that we thought, okay, they're going to relax the rule at Vanderbilt, and they didn't. And understandably, I mean, I'm not getting on to anyone. I felt like Vanderbilt is at the disadvantage of being in the big city, and so they had to take extra steps. You saw what was happening with the Titans, and so it was like, all right, we understand, we get it. We're not, we want to be in there. And then when you see students in there, you're like, okay, I'll take a COVID test, if that's what it takes to come in. But we understood what they were doing, and our son fortunately never got COVID, never got contact traced, which was a huge blessing. Probably maybe 4 or 5 guys that didn't get one or the other. And so, but coming in, we would check with different stadiums and what their rules were, and if we could make it, because sometimes our youngest son would have a high school game on Friday night, and it would be away game. We get in at 12 o'clock, 12:30, and there wasn't an early enough flight to get if they had an early game on the road.
Yeah.
And so if it was an early game on the road, we probably couldn't make it. And so
I was going to say, you might as well just not sleep, just get in the car and head east.
that was the conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure in a few years from now, when Ken's playing days are done, y'all are going to look back and say, how in the world did we keep this schedule? But I know you do it because you love it, you love him, and it's just all part of the experience.
It's worth it once you're there watching them. It's like you don't even think about it.
That's right.
Yes, we did the right thing.
That's I'm from a small town in South Alabama, and it's an 8-hour drive to campus. And I have two younger brothers who also were playing high school and middle school football when I was in school. So my parents would have a Thursday night game, a Friday night game, and then drive where
they deserve a medal.
Yeah,
they absolutely do.
yeah, absolutely. But let me ask you, Robert, about we just had an exciting day yesterday, early signing period. It looks like most of the kids who were committed did sign. I think a new blindside tackle for Ken flipped, or maybe not flipped, but it came from West Virginia. And so they look great on paper. They look great in their high school films, but it's got to raise some excitement with the kids on the team and maybe the parents who follow the program.
Well, we've got the 19 kids, we've got 2 transfers, and we're still under the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. I'm very excited. Was it 29th by Rivals? The class rank. That is amazing. In context of everything, it's almost a miracle. But it really went well. But when I look at the depletion of numbers because of opt-outs and transfers, I don't know if NCAA steps in and says we're going to do more. You can do more than the 25 per year. Hopefully they can, because we're still going to be like a team that has been sanctioned if we come in with 75, 74 players at the end of the year. So I'm hoping some adjustments can be made there, but with what we got, there's zero complaints. And with the core of kids that we ended up with that stuck it out, my gosh, those guys are heart and soul,
And I think that bonding, and I'm not criticizing the kids who went into the portal or the kids who opted out or for whatever reason are not going to remain with the program. I'm not talking about them. I'm referring to those same guys that you're referring to, that over the next couple of years, it's going to be very exciting to see how well they come together as a team. Yep. And how they truly are not just teammates, but brothers on and off the field. And what makes it exciting for us, and I'm speaking for a whole bunch of has-beens, is Coach Lee coming in, a former player, a Nashville kid, or a kid, he's a man, but he's got just this something about him that it brings out some excitement right now. And I love the fact that he's called all of the signees. As soon as he did, he called Ken. I'm sure he's called a whole bunch of the other players already while he's getting ready for his conference championship this weekend.
There's a buy-in that has to happen in order to change this thing. And I felt like, again, I love Coach Mason. I think Coach Mason's a great man. I mean, in our home, and had nothing but wonderful things to say about him. I'll never have a negative thing. But I do feel like if you're going to change a culture, it's top to bottom. And I think that's happening. I think the kids that stuck it out want to see that we're not walking into the same thing next year. And I think there's some things that honestly just need to change as far as how we prepare, how these kids come into the season with a mindset of we can be on the field with anyone. Because I feel like there's some guys that didn't honestly feel that, but if you opted out after week 2, week 3, in my opinion, you opted out not for COVID reasons. If you in a transfer portal, that's different. If you graduated in a transfer portal, okay, go for new experiences. I understand that, but those kids that weathered this unbelievable storm, and you got a core of guys you can build on.
Frankly, I want to fast forward 20 years from now when there's a book written about this team. I don't care what the scoreboard said for this year. I'm honored to be a Commodore and rooting for those kids who stuck it out. And I've encouraged players, former players who are on social media, send them a tweet of encouragement. Let them know that you've been rooting for them, how proud you are. That's the best way to reach out to these guys right now, in my opinion. Just let them know you're there and you got their back. You're defending them, you're rooting for them. And when we're allowed to show up next fall, we're going to be there for them.
I think you're going to see a surge of not only fans, but of administration. Sounds like it's a new level of support and expectations. You know, there may have been administration there before, but whether it's an all red stadium before when you're playing Georgia, you know, and they're okay with it. I don't think that's okay anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have an administration that settles anymore. It sounds like there is a new day in Vanderbilt, and I'm new to the scene, and I'm not trying to stake any claim to knowing Vanderbilt or their, you know, or have an insight that nobody else has. But just as an outsider coming in, I do feel like it's a new day.
And I think there's a guarded optimism right now. There's a slow roll. You've got a lot of curmudgeons who've been through this year after year and heard this before. But when we see things occurring, such as starting with the locker rooms now that the season is over, those are the kind of things that are going to get the attention of the people who really love the program and want to get back into the fold.
Yep.
But I want to step back. I got a couple of questions and comments for you from the crowd. And the first one is, how and why did the Seals family decide for Ken to come to Vanderbilt? What was it that brought you guys and for him to sign?
It was a perfect combination. Ken got an offer from Princeton, and it was the #1 academic school in the nation. And that's where Mom and I were. Ken got an offer from Minnesota and really liked PJ Fleck.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like an up and coming program. And he was kind of gravitating towards there. And then Baylor came in the picture late. And they said, we're not going to make it public, but if you want to come here and decommit from Vanderbilt, you can come here. And so it's almost like parents wanted Princeton, Ken wanted Big 12, Big 10. And it's like, we want the education, you want the big time football. There's nothing better than Vanderbilt. You're going to play in the SEC. They're excited about you. And that was another thing. You need to go where they're excited about you. And Coach Mason and Coach Godowski at the time were very, very, motivated and excited about Ken. And said, I really feel like this is the place for you. And he looked at it, and we went there 5 times. And before he made the final decision. And once he made it, their phone still rang after he committed, but he said, no, I've committed to Vanderbilt. I'm going to stay there.
And, that says a lot about not only you and Mrs. Seals and the way you're raising your children and what's important, but it also says a lot about Ken's character, because he was not going to be the only quarterback on the roster. Far from it. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah. And one thing, even after they told Ken, we're only bringing in 1 quarterback. If you don't, if you want this offer, you need to take it. So that was part of his, thinking too. And once he committed, it's like, well, we're bringing in 3 others.
Mm-hmm.
And so he stuck with it, and he goes, you know what? All 3 of those guys signed after I did. Mm-hmm. He goes, so they think they can win the job over me. Mm-hmm. He goes, that's what I needed, Dad.
There's some motivation, isn't it?
It just lit a fire under him.
Well, what I'll also tell you from me as just an observer and former player watching the games on TV, his body language spoke volumes when Wright would come in or he wasn't in the game. Because it would be very easy for a young guy who's the starting quarterback when he gets pulled for a series or a couple of plays, whatever the reason, body language speaks volumes. And from my observation, I saw nothing but a teammate right there, someone encouraging the rest of his team on, regardless of who was in the game.
He not only likes Mike Wright, but Mike Wright is a good quarterback, and Mike Wright pushes Ken. And Mike Wright is a fine young man from everything I can tell. And it's hard to be upset. And I'm not speaking for Ken here. It would be hard to be upset if someone like that just gets an opportunity. If you're not doing well and he goes in and does well, you got to be excited for that. And Ken has never ever been one to shy away from a competition. I promise you that. And I told him this year, I goes, hey, we lost a quarterback this year, and so they're probably going to bring in another one. Ken's comment, I hope he likes being on the bench.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
I think that the very best, regardless if you're playing a sport or if you're in your professional career, whatever it may be, banking, it doesn't matter what it is. If you've got competition, then you've got something, some motivation right there. And I think that's great. And speaking of Mike Wright for just a second, I was so very impressed, not only by what he said publicly in social media, but so many others when Sarah Fuller joined the team. It would have been very easy to go negative or to quit the team and so forth. And there are people who were not happy with it. They thought it was a publicity stunt, et cetera, but it is what it is. And she made history, and I was so very proud of her. And I'll always be proud of what she did and for the fact that Coach Mason brought her on the team and made history. I don't think it was a stunt. You can't tell me differently, but I'm just an observer from the outside. And I guess what my question or my comment to you is, from a parent's standpoint, did it really resonate that big of a deal? Did it make you proud to be for Ken to be part of the program? What was going on there from a communication standpoint?
with the Sarah Fuller, we kind of took Ken's input from it. Ken goes, well, she's on the team, Dad. Everybody's cheering for her. He goes, I don't know what was going on in the press or what they were saying. He goes, she's part of the team. We wanted her to do well. And when she did well, we were happy. And he had never had a negative thing to say about it and didn't know who was saying anything negative about it, if they were, but it wasn't on the team that he knew. It was full. When she did it, we knew it was a big deal and we were happy for her. And it was a positive. I don't see anything personally negative about it. He didn't see anything personally. If it was one of those things that she could not do the job that she was out there for, that was different.
Yeah. And
she went out there and did it.
I did think it was, I don't know, interesting that she made the last point of the season for the Commodores. I don't know, that doesn't mean a whole lot to other people.
Yeah, she scored twice against Tennessee. That's what I like.
That's right. That's right. Well, let me ask you, I know you have a son who plays, and I don't know if your daughter's into sports, but my question is about the modern athlete and technology. It's too easy for those kids to just get on social media and have their head filled, good or bad, about whatever's going on. Whatever the war may be with I call them the keyboard warriors. They probably never played past Little League, but yet they have opinions about everything. So here's my question. And this is not just about your children, but about your friends, kids, et cetera. How do you as a parent, how do you get them to just push all that aside and not let them affect their day-to-day emotions and how they do on and off the field and those kind of things? Because as an adult, it's very hard for the average person, much less somebody playing in the SEC and always in the spotlight.
Well, let me take Ken first. Ken, because he had a lot of attention in high school and now, and I think it was 2 years ago. I asked Ken, wow, this person said something really nice about you. I don't even remember the incidents, but I remember saying that. His response is what I remember. He goes, "Dad, that's the same guy that's going to say something bad about me when I have a bad game." He goes, "I don't read it." And it sounds like, every other pro, I don't read my press clippings. He doesn't. He'll post some things every now and then in support of a teammate or a former high school guy that got an offer or something like that. But he just doesn't. And it's a healthy habit. It's one of those that, go out there, let your job speak for itself. It's like with the whole Georgia situation when we had to cancel. I can't tell you what's come down on Ken for that. And it's been really bad, from Georgia fans.
Yeah.
And nothing that if they said we're going to go play Georgia, he'd have been on the bus. So it had nothing to do with Ken, but it's coming out of it. And so he like, yeah, I saw a couple of things and I just let it go. So
Well, I can tell you from my household, I have a daughter who's an undergraduate senior at Georgia, and she took it upon herself, poor thing. She's defended that decision against her friends at Georgia because she
God
knows,
bless her.
she knows how important it is to me and the people, my friends. So she at least tell Ken and Mama Bear that you guys have at least one undergraduate at Georgia who has defended that decision. She will to her dying day.
Well, I want to ask Georgia. I want you to strip away half of your team, go out there with about 16 players on defense, and play Alabama. You willing to do that? No, I don't think you are.
Not so much, not so much. But that's good stuff. And guys, if you're just tuning in, I'm having a great conversation with Robert Seals. We're talking all things Vanderbilt from an on and off the field standpoint. I want to ask you about your other children, the younger children, Daniel and Trinity. Is that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
how do they? Ken gets lots of attention in the press for the obvious who he is and what he's doing. How do they deal with that? Or I know he's just their older brother, but does it affect them? Do they give him a hard time, or what can you share about that without giving away secrets?
They are absolutely his biggest fans. Absolutely. But, Ken won a national quarterback competition back in 7th grade. And it kind of started then. So really attention is like normal to them, with it. And I would say my youngest, Daniel, is kind of coming to his own. He's 6'1", benches 340. He is a little stud in himself. And he's just now getting some looks from colleges and things. So he is, ready for it to happen for himself. But as far as jealousy or for anything, no. As far as support and excited all the time, yes. In fact, they'll go running up to Ken and say, "Oh, I read this, I saw this," all the time. They're excited for him. I'm blessed as a dad because I got kids that are in each other's camp and love one another, support one another. It's been nothing but good, nothing but good.
Well, that's good stuff. We got a whole bunch of more folks who just rolled in. Robert, we've got Billy Smith, one of my favorites, one of the beloved Keystone cops who you don't know about, but for many, many years, Billy and some of his police officers, captains in the Nashville Police Department would be the guys responsible for hauling the equipment out of state, wherever the away games, whether we played at Rutgers, at Army, Gainesville, wherever it was, they loaded it up, and they told some awesome stories a few months ago on here about some of their adventures. Oh gosh, we got so many other guys. June Jakes, who was an administrative assistant to the head coach for a long time. June knows where all the bodies are buried. So if you ever want to know the history, you see Miss Jakes, and you'll see her. You'll see these folks at games next year. We're just dying to get back to some games, and I'm hoping that when Coach Lee gets on campus and sets a spring black and gold game or whatever he's going to call it, that there'll be a game that's open to the public and folks can show up. But I guess that's all depending on the timing, the vaccine, in the city of Nashville, whether it opens back up or when it does. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But we've just got a couple of questions, a couple more minutes, and I appreciate
Yeah.
this evening. But I want to ask from a parent's communication standpoint with either the other guys' families in Ken's class or the other parents on the team. Do you guys have a group me or any methods of group communication that during the week you're able to talk?
I wish we did. I hadn't really even thought about it. My big interaction has been at the hotel lobby of the Marriott. And I've gotten to know some people there at the restaurant there. And it's like, and Braden Batt's family, Ashford's family, different families. We get the Ball family, get to meet with them and then exchange numbers over texting. But yes, I think it's going to expand exponentially, next year. We're actually all able to get together, be there, and, put face to name and things like that. But it's been, between, Twitter and texting and things like that, I think we've done the best we could. And I've really enjoyed and admired the people that are part of this because they know what we're going through. I know what they're going through, and it's positive. There's no negativity out of anyone. It's all, optimism, and some really good days are ahead of us. They really feel that. I feel that. Ken feels that. And I feel like this is all, like you said earlier, I think before we got started, it's perfect timing.
It really is, and the next days, weeks, and months ahead are hopefully nothing but good stuff for the whole program. But last two questions I've got for you.
Okay.
How many hours over the last couple of days since Ken's been home has he actually slept and tried to catch up on some much needed rest?
Not much, because he's going to working out with his younger brother.
Awesome.
And they're hitting the gym twice a day. And he's also in the middle of the day trying to catch up with some old friends. And then this weekend we got a big Thanksgiving meal because he missed Thanksgiving, so we're redoing the whole thing over again for him. We have everybody over. So he has been going and going and going. And in fact, he should be home here in about 15 minutes, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, you'll get that text. And you either, Mama, I'm in a food desert. What's in the fridge?
We had to get his food list. Okay, when you get here, just look at the fridge, tell Mom what to order, we'll get it in here for you.
Oh, that's all good stuff. Well, Robert, if there is a spring game, if there's spring practice, I know we'll hear about it in the upcoming weeks and months whenever Coach Lee sets his timetable. Do you anticipate being able to go to a spring game and those kind of things later in the early part of the year, assuming that the world opens up?
If they open it up, we're there. We're going to be there. I'm hoping it doesn't conflict with our youngest son's spring game. I'm optimistic that it won't at this point. But if they have it, we're going to be there. Absolutely. We were all 100%, focused on Mercer last year. We're going to that game, prepare for Mercer, and whoever's on the schedule this year, we're going to be prepared for that. But spring game, absolutely. We were excited to see him in a Vanderbilt uniform for the first time. That was exciting for us. Whether he played or not, we just wanted to see him.
Well, he did more than that this year, and I know that the family, you guys are very proud of his on the field accomplishments as well as off the field and who he is as a character and a young man. And we wish you guys nothing but the best. And we know we're going to see you in the upcoming days, weeks, and months on campus. And guys, as we do always, I want to thank you for gosh, so many. We probably had 45, 50 guys to roll through this evening over the last, what have we been going, 40 minutes or so. So that just to give you a little idea of the enthusiasm of the former players who just want to get back into the fold a little bit.
That's great. I feel so honored. I mean, the former players, and I've seen who normally is on your show. Like, it really means a lot that you invited me, and I've enjoyed it. And man, to be a part of this, it's an honor for my wife and I. It really, really is.
Well, thank you. Those kind words from you, Robert. We wish you guys happy holidays, some much needed rest and some family time. And just remember, guys, every week, got to continue.
There you go.
I'm going to take a couple of weeks off and we'll see you at the beginning of the year. Got some awesome guests lined up, former players and coaches. So you guys be safe and we'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.